Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm extremely excited for this opportunity to share some important information with you about human trafficking. Please, we suggest that you use viewer discretion. This may not be suitable for all ages. So my name is Penny, and I'm an officer with Camp True Light. Camp True Light is a faith-based nonprofit organization that is purposed to serve those who fall victim to human trafficking, both labor and sex. Our mission is to provide a safe place for children who have fallen victim to start their healing in a safe, family-style setting while their physical and mental needs are being met. We're also very dedicated to spreading prevention techniques and awareness in communities. It is harder for a trafficker to move into a community that is aware. So let's talk. Does anyone know what human trafficking is? What is human trafficking? Anyone know what human trafficking is?
It's just
the illegal movement of people from other countries into other countries.
Well, you know what? That's exactly right. Human trafficking is a modern-day slavery, and I have something for you. Let me. Somebody's going to have to throw it to him because he's way in the back. Dang it.
Okay.
I don't know if this one's going to fit you, so.
Trade it.
Yeah, you can trade it later, okay?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm bad at talking. So human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It is the buying, selling, trading of a person for goods, services, or money to profit another with no compensation or little compensation to the victim. Victims' participation is through manipulation, lies, trick, fraud, force, guilt, and shame. On the streets, human trafficking is known as the life or the game. A group of victims that a trafficker will be in control of is called a family or a stable. Victims become possessions. They are seen as property. So much so that the trafficker will brand their stable victims. They will brand them with tattoos. It depends on that particular trafficker. It could be a crown. It could be a $sign. It could be the trafficker's initials. One of the most popular is the barcode. And that's because it signifies that this person can be bought or sold. Victims are not allowed to make eye contact with other people, and especially not another trafficker on the streets. If they do, that trafficker can take possession of that victim. On the streets, traffickers live by a motto, and it is MOE. MOE means money over everything. They are truly lovers of money. There was a 12-year-old little girl in San Antonio, Texas. Her mother was a single parent. She struggled in school. She started to skip school. She was hanging out at the neighborhood store, and she ran into a girl that was a little bit older than her. The girl asked her, "Hey, you want to go smoke a joint?" She said, "Sure." So she follows the girl to a house where two brothers lived. They smoked the joint, and after they finished, Maria asked if she could go to the restroom. So one of the brothers led her off to a room, and when she stepped inside, it was a room with a bucket. He locked and shut the door behind her. After a little bit of time, the older girl said, "Hey, where'd the girl go?" They said, "Oh, she had to leave. She left out the back." So the older girl left. Once the older girl left, the brothers began to abuse Maria and rape her. And then they came up with a plan to sell her. You see, they were already drug dealers. So they figured that when their male customers came, they would just offer Maria to them. So that's what they did for a little over 3 months. One day, a guy came in, and they offered Maria to him, and he recognized her. He knew her. He knew her mother. So he paid for time with Maria, and he asked her in the room, how did you get here? What happened? So as she began to tell her story, he said, I'll be back. In all hopelessness, Maria said, you won't be back. You see, this guy was a known drug dealer. The brothers were known drug dealers. They were members of a gang. This guy was a known drug user. He was scared to go to the police. So he come up with a plan. He went back. And he grabbed Maria. He caused a distraction. He grabbed Maria, and they ran out back to where he parked his pickup truck. And he took off running, got in the pickup truck, and he drove Maria straight to the police station. Inside, Maria began to tell her story. And as the officers began to figure out all the charges that they needed to charge the brothers with, rape, abuse, kidnapping, false imprisonment, the captain walked in and said, this is human trafficking. You see, Maria was trafficked and she was never moved from the location she was in. She was only a few blocks from her house. She was only a couple of blocks from the neighborhood store that she'd been hanging out in. This crime is so evil, it is completely hidden in darkness. Victims are all around us, but we can't see them. Their voices are silent. We have more people enslaved today than ever before in history. So, most of us think about, and as the guy in the back said earlier, what human trafficking was. When we think about human trafficking, we automatically think about the international problem. And it is. It is a huge international problem. It's a worldwide problem. They abduct our children and our young people here in the U.S., and they move them and enslave them to another country. And when this happens, the rescue rate is less than 0.5%. They lie to people with false promises, with the American dream. Come for a better education. Come and get a better job to send money home for support to your family. They get them over here and they enslave them. But tonight, I want us to drill down. Let's talk about what's happening in the United States. Let's talk about what's happening in your community. U.S. Department of Justice did a study and found that 83% of the sex trafficking victims in the United States are U.S. citizens. 77% of the trafficking victims were trafficked by someone they know. This time last year, it was estimated that human trafficking was generating $35 billion a year. 1 year later, today, it is estimated to generate $150 billion. So you're like, wait a minute, are you telling me that this has grown through the pandemic? Yes, human trafficking is increasing every day. But let me tell you, some of us see victory in that number. Because as more people find out and they become aware and they learn how to identify the signs, they learn how to report, we are getting more tips, more victims are being revealed. Traffickers are being exposed. California is number 1 with the highest trafficking rates. Texas is number 2, and Florida is number 3. I-10 has been identified as the main route to move victims between Florida and California. Interstate is also known and used as something as we call interstate trafficking. The trafficker will take their victims, place them in different locations, truck stops, exits, and they're not far behind. They're very close by, so they can watch and control their victims. They post those victims' MOE. They let them know where those victims are. As soon as that trafficker has a buyer, they send those victims step-by-step instructions through text messages while reminding them of their threats. This is such a problem on interstate that Walmart truckers have formed a coalition with other truckers. They are reporting suspicious activity out there. There was a retired couple traveling, and they pulled into a rest area, and as they pulled in, a minivan pulled in next to them. 2 men, a woman, and 2 young girls got out. The woman said that she recalled that the girls looked very timid. They had their heads down as she led them to the restroom. She said once inside the restroom, something really struck her odd, and it was that those 2 girls never said a word. She said the vibes that she got from that woman scared her so bad that she couldn't get out of the restroom fast enough. She said that she ran outside the restroom and she was relieved to see her husband standing on the outside of the restroom waiting for her. She ran up to him and said, "We got to get out of here. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with those 2 girls." And he said, "I know. We got to get out of here. There's something really strange about those 2 men." As they got in their car and they pulled off, the woman remembered the National Human Trafficking Hotline and said, "What if it's human trafficking?" So they called. They gave that description of that vehicle, those 2 girls, the men, the woman, and that was a human trafficking situation. That couple saved those 2 girls. You can change it. Oh, I'm sorry. You can go back one more. So Tampa Bay area and Pinellas County is one of the greatest problem areas in your state. There was 896 known cases in Florida last year. And as you can see by the numbers that generated, the $150 billion that was generated, I can tell you right now, Tampa, you're going to be surprised. Florida, you're going to be surprised when you see the number of victims and known cases for 2020. Change it. Hillsborough County ran an undercover sting, 5-month-long sting last year, November 2019, which led to 104 arrests. They got 1 trafficker, lots of Johns or buyers, and sadly, they also, most likely, is what we're saying, they arrested victims. Because you see, all too often, the victims are arrested and processed through the system as criminals. So who's being trafficked? You can stay there. I'm so sorry, I got ahead of myself. So who's being trafficked? Men, women, and children. For sex trafficking, the targeted age, they say, is between 9 and 22. But we know that there's been cases here recently that age has been lower. We know that 2 years ago there was a young 24-year-old woman that was abducted while on vacation with her family. She was moved right into another country and sold into sex trafficking. Human trafficking sees no race or gender. When we think about sex trafficking, I know that most of us think about the young girls. But did you know that 45% of the sex trafficking victims in the U.S. are boys? Did you know that traffickers are targeting Christian homes? Did you know that traffickers are targeting your Christian children? So you say, who's a trafficker? A trafficker is any individual, a business owner, a government official, a government representative, romantic partner, a parent, family members, a acquaintances, or a stranger. It could be anyone. The top locations that they use for sex trafficking in Florida are residence, hotel, motel based, online pornography, escort services, interstate trafficking, illicit massage businesses. And I want to stop there, and I'm going to talk to you for a minute about what you might see if you unknowingly walk into an illicit massage business. Some of the first things that you'll see is they have curtains up on the windows, the doors. It's hard to see in and out. As you walk in, it might appear that the employees live there. Once you say, yeah, I want to get a massage, one of them will look out the window and they'll lock the door. After you go back and get your massage, you might find yourself left thinking, what did I just pay for? That was a very odd massage, because they don't know how to massage. These are some of the things that you might see. And it's very easy. It's easier than you think to walk into one of these places. They're at storefronts. They hold odd hours. I'm also here in Tampa Bay to tell you it's time to be watchmen. It's time to be watchmen. You already have a problem in your city, and I'm here to tell you that traffickers all over are preparing to bring victims into your city. They are preparing to bring them in and set them up at locations for sale. And you're like, why? Big events draw traffickers. And as most of you guys know, Super Bowl 55 is going to be at the beautiful Raymond James Stadium. So as they prepare, we need to prepare. You need to be watchmen, protect your children, keep your eyes open in the community. One person can save one person. One person can save a stable of victims. When we look at, and also I want to bring up, because I know I used to live here, so I know about Gasparilla. You guys have that coming up too. And you also have the Grand Prix in St. Pete. These are things that draw them in to your city. If we look at the labor side, because I know some of you guys are still thinking, you know, when she said who's being trafficked, she said men. So men are being trafficked. Not only are they lying and tricking them and bringing them into our country, telling them that they can leave their family and they can send support home, they are also getting people that are coming in, guys and men, coming out of prison that are really wanting to change their life. Maybe they said, I don't want to be a criminal anymore. I want to change my life. And they have a hard time finding a job. Then they come out and somebody gives them the perfect opportunity, right? To be trafficked. We see labor trafficking with children and women as well in the traveling sales crews, restaurant workers, nannies, maids, construction workers, like I told you. And we also see it with the begging and peddling. Have you ever drove down the road and been through the city and then said, you know, these homeless people are organized because I seen that guy over across town and now he's here. And I seen the guy that used to stand on this corner, he's over there. They're organized, but they're being trafficked. Most likely, they're being trafficked. And that growing number is growing. Of these people that you see standing on the corner begging for money. Go to the next one. So, there are many players in trafficking. And sadly, it is someone's job to lie, to trick. It is their job to deceive and entrap new victims. On the streets, they call this bunny hunting. So these bunny hunters are knockers. They're also known as knockers. They're paid to find new victims. They approach two ways. One is online deception. We call these people posers. They have a way. They use fake profiles. They hide behind fake profiles. They have a way of prying into young people's lives, getting them to reveal too much about their life, their family, their friends, their interests. And they will become whatever that person needs. If this young person needs a friend, they're going to be their friend. If they need a love, they are going to be their love. If this person needs a job, they are going to be there and find a way to help them find that job. Be careful. A friend of a friend request. Just because your friend Sally knows somebody and they've requested to be your friend on social media, you don't know them. Don't accept their friend request. They also will use text messages and spoofing and pretend to be contacting your phone. They'll send text messages and say, hey, it's FedEx, we've got a package. That is a tracker that is downloaded on your phone when you click that. So I tell my grandkids, the young people in my life, don't click on anything like that. If you don't know it, even adults, if you don't know it, don't click on it. They're smart. These people that are paid to do this are extremely smart. Think about the time you spend at your job. What do you accomplish when you work? They're paid. Also, turn off locations on apps, especially your kids. They don't need to have the location turned on to their phone. So many kids are at Chick-fil-A going, hey, we're at Chick-fil-A. Well, if they're being tracked and stalked by a trafficker, they know where they are. They know if there's a parent there. Turn those locations off of the phones. The only location service that should be on the phone is for the parent. Do we have any parents that randomly collect their phones and devices and go through them? You do?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I've got something for you. I hope this, and you can trade this too at the end of the night if you want. So I'm just going to throw you one, but you can trade it because I've got several. But this is for you because we want to encourage parents to do that. They need us. They don't like it, but they need us to do that. And it's not because we don't trust them. We need to know who they're having a conversation with. We need to have a conversation with them and say, how do you know them? Who is this person? Do you know them from school? Who do you know? How do you know? So I have a question for you, another question for you. Did you know that they have created an app so that your kids can hide anything from you on their phone they don't want you to know?
I wouldn't doubt it.
It's called a hidden app. It's disguised as a calculator. They have other disguises now because we're kind of catching on to it. Looks like a calculator when you're checking their phones. In this calculator app, they can hide pictures, social media accounts they're not allowed to have, conversations, contacts. They can hide anything they want in this app from you. You want to know how to find out if they have this app on their phone? You go to the App Store. When you collect that phone, you type right in there and say hidden app. If they've got that app on their phone, or an app like it, it's going to pop up. And if they do, you need to look into that app. There was a 14-year-old boy named Eric. Eric played Xbox Live. I believe some of his favorite was the Call of Duty and Fortnite. So he played with people he didn't know. He did this for a while. Soon, there was this beautiful 16-year-old girl that started playing. And she was really good at the game. So over a period of probably about 3 months, he played on and off with her. So one day, she starts side-chatting him and saying, hey, you know what? I've got some codes that'll help you advance in this game. You can be as good as I am at this game. So Eric thought that was fantastic. So as time went on, Eric and this girl became even closer. He thought she was the coolest girl he'd ever met. She liked all the things that he did. And here she is, this beautiful 16-year-old girl. They even began to start texting each other. Almost every day, they were checking in and talking to each other. And one day, she sends Eric an inappropriate picture of herself. And she tells Eric, now you send one of you to me. So Eric did. Shortly after Eric sent that picture, her dad called. His phone rang, he answered the phone, and he was really mad. He's screaming at Eric, saying, this is illegal. You sent this picture to my 16-year-old daughter? I'm going to the police. I'm going to your parents. And he's screaming and got Eric completely shook up. Eric said, I just kept saying, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So finally the man said, you know what? We'll just meet and we'll talk about it. I'm just trying to protect my 16-year-old daughter. So let me just meet you and make sure that you're a 14-year-old boy and my daughter is okay. So Eric met the guy. Now the trafficker asked Eric, because you see, it was never a beautiful 16-year-old girl that Eric was talking to. They have time to be friends. They have time to be your friend, to be your kid's friend. They don't care if it takes 4 or 5 months. They've got time because they're not just working one kid. They're not just working one person. They're working many people. Because remember what I told you? It's their job. They have time. They're waiting for that moment and that day that you have a fight with your teenager. They're waiting for that day that they broke up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend and they're heartbroken. I don't know how many of you have made a bad decision when you were heartbroken. I've made a few. They're waiting for that moment. The second way they approach is face-to-face, and we call them liars. Pretty easy, right? So they are trying to get you and trying to get the young people to meet them somewhere. Come go with me. Always trying to get them to go somewhere. They're usually outside of their circle of friends. Could be an incredible offer. Like, hey, I'm a talent scout. we're doing this reality TV show. We're looking for some new talent. We've got some modeling coming up, and we've got a big modeling party, and we're going to do some photo shoots. You can come to this location, and you might become a model. I know some of you guys think, they probably wouldn't do that. My kid wouldn't do that. Well, as my kids grow up, they started telling me stuff that they did, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how did you get away with that? I don't know if some of you guys remember the story where the two young girls stepped up to the American airline counter, and the ticket agent started to process their boarding passes. And she realized they didn't have an adult with them, and they were pretty young. And then so she asked them if they had any bags to check. They said, no, we don't have any bags. That made her feel a little uneasy. So she started asking a few more questions because she noticed they only have like little book bags. And she started saying, where y'all going? Oh, we're going to Vegas because we're going to go. They're going to take some pictures. We've got a modeling opportunity. We're going to make $1,000 each. And we'll be back Sunday. Well, the ticket agent is looking at the boarding pass, and they're one-way tickets to Vegas. Thank God that she followed her instincts because she thought that something was wrong. So she told the girls, hold on one second. Let me just look at a couple of things. So as the girls stood there and waited, she called the authorities and told them to come up because she thought she had a situation and she told them what was happening. And she didn't stop there. She immediately started tracking the credit card to find out who paid for the tickets while she was waiting. So she could see that the person who paid for the tickets didn't have either one of their last names. So not only was that American Airline ticket agent able to return the two girls to the parents who had no idea their girls were at the airport, because guess what they did? The old story, I'm spending the night at her house and she's spending the night at my house. They had no idea their daughters were at the airport. Not only did that ticket agent save those two girls, they were able to track that credit card back because she thought so fast, and they busted an entire human trafficking ring in Vegas. So, you see, one person questioning an issue, a situation, can make a difference. You can go on. Also, I wanted to point out that the traffickers' recruitment strategy, and they're very proud of this. So wherever kids are, that's where we're going to be. So when you think about that, you have to think about your schools, right? Your kids are in school. So I'll tell you, they use the kids and the victims in the school because, yes, there's victims in your kids' school. Because there's children that live and have to go to school and appear on the outside that everything is okay. But when they go home, they live a completely different life. So sometimes whoever's trafficking them will say to them, you tired of this? You want this to be over? Are you ready to be out? I have a deal for you. You bring me two girls, invite them to this party that I'm going to have. You bring them, and you'll be out. They become desperate to get out. They want out. They want this life to be over. So these are the kids that are in the school. They're looking for somebody that doesn't quite fit in. They're looking for somebody that would want to go to a party. And by the way, on the streets in the human trafficking life, they call these parties skip parties, secret parties. They invite those kids to the party, and then the trafficker uses that situation to exploit them and control them. This could happen to a kid that will remain looking like everything's normal. But it's not. Somebody's holding something over their head. There's 3 types of lies: fake love, fake friendship, and fake job. Fast, easy money, incredible offer, reality show, that's the things they use. Secret friendships and secret meetings, protect the trafficker and endanger the victim. And again, we talked about that they're paid liars, paid deceivers. And people that are paid to lie are unbelievably skilled. They are master manipulators. They are so believable, they are so effective that almost always the victims will go willingly. Because you see, it's easy for them to get the victim to meet them or to make a bad choice, because now they feel like they've built a bond and a closeness and a friendship. So they just feel like they're meeting a friend. When we go back to labor trafficking, where are we at? Oh, red flags. No, I'm sorry. So red flags of sex trafficking. Some of the things that you can do and identify red flags: visible injuries, inconsistent stories, failure to make eye contact, teased by other students for being sexually active or a prostitute, branded tattoos. I think I skipped this part when I was telling you about the tattoos. These tattoos can be found on the sides of their neck, the back of their neck, the insides of their arm. You see them on their chest. Sometimes they're on their lower parts of their body and on their ankles. High-end clothes, recently purchased. Maybe it's someone that you know, it's a kid that you know that really can't afford to do that, and all of a sudden this changes in their life, and you see them dressed like this. Inappropriate for the weather. Hotel keys. Rolls of money. Multiple little throwaway phones. Prepaid credit cards and gift cards. In-depth knowledge of the streets. Tonight I've been talking to you guys a little bit and telling you a little bit about some street language. But if there's someone here that works with young people and you want more information about some street language for human trafficking, let us know, please. We can give you a lot more information on that, on any topic that you hear tonight and you want more information on. You could see them with an older boyfriend or girlfriend. It could be a controlling relationship. They might even control their ID. When we look at the labor trafficking, it's the same thing. They avoid eye contact. They'll have visible injuries as well. They'll appear very malnourished. You don't see a lot of vehicles, or you see them transported back and forth in a van full of people, a whole crew. They wear dirty clothes, or you see them wear the same clothes over and over. Lack of personal items, wallets, purses. The employer will answer questions for them, or their answers seem very rehearsed, and they seem a little fearful of their supervisor. My husband and I was working. We had put a long day in for Camp True Light. We were still a couple hours away from home. So he said, find us somewhere to stop and eat. So I did. I Googled Chinese buffet. I love Chinese buffets. So we go in and we sit down, and when we sit down, my husband looks at me and says, do you see what I see? And I looked up, and there was this older man running around the restaurant. He looked like he had lost so much weight. His face was sunken in. His pants were so big that he had his belt tightened so tight, and he probably had put another belt loop notch in there, and it was hanging down really low. He ran up to our table with the drinks and had his head down and dropped the drinks off and came out. As he was pulling away from our table, we realized he had a huge bruise on the side of his face. Somebody had put makeup on his face to hide the bruising. My husband and I looked around, and we realized there was cameras all over that restaurant. The woman that was standing up front, who was definitely in charge, all the employees looked a little intimidated and fearful of her. We even seen an employee run right up to her and tell her something and seem extremely nervous. As we stepped up to the cash register to check out, we noticed that under the counter, the lady had little TV screens all under the counter so she could see every inch of the restaurant. We had just walked in to a human trafficking situation. This is the red flags. Now I want to tell you a story about an amazing young woman named Sarah. Sarah had a rough childhood, single parent. Her mother was in prison, so her dad was raising her. Her dad had some criminal dealings, and because of his criminal dealings, Sarah was taken away and placed in foster care. Sarah moved from foster home to foster home. She landed in a foster home where the foster parent began to sell her. Sarah went to school and told him at school. She even tried to tell her social worker that this was happening to her. No one believed her. Everyone said that Sarah was acting out and that she was lying on her foster parent. This went on until Sarah one day met a young man and they fell in love. So they ran off and eventually got married. But then Sarah found that she was in an extremely abusive, violent relationship. With some help, Sarah was able to escape that relationship. Sarah was saved. God began to change Sarah's life. She went back to school, she graduated college, and she landed a successful career. I am happy to tell you today that not only is Sarah a strong, independent, successful young woman, she plays a major part in the rescue of others. Because of Sarah's experience in the life and her knowledge of the streets, Sarah can take cases that law enforcement have run into dead ends. She can take those same cases and the same evidence and not only locate victims, but track it to the trafficker. Sarah said that oftentimes when she's there rescuing victims, one will look up at her and say, "You know Jesus?" And she says, "Yes, I do. And I'm here to help." You see, in their darkest hour, their state of all hopelessness, when they see Sarah coming, they see Jesus. We've been called to be the light of this world. We can no longer allow the darkness of this world to blind us. I want you to remember that victims of any type of abuse carry all the guilt and the shame. So you say, "Penny, how can I be the one in the fight? How can I help?" Pray. if you're a person of faith. If you're out there and you hear me tonight and you're a prayer warrior, prayer. We need to pray over our children, pray over the children in our lives. We need to pray for the victims that are out there. Doesn't matter if they're our children. We need to pray for the sailors that are out there risking their lives to save others. Talk to your youth. Empower your youth and your children with the knowledge of the danger. Be that safe person for someone. Listen to young people talk. Listen to their language. Keep your eyes open in your community. Report suspicious activity. Call the human trafficking line. If you're a business owner, post a poster with that number. The National Human Trafficking Line did a survey last year for 2019 and found that the highest amount of calls they received came from family and friends of a victim. The other number that's on a rise is victims. Victims are texting, help, be free. That number's on the rise. We need people posting these numbers, and the inside of a bathroom stall is the perfect place. The other thing you can do if you travel or you know someone that travels, there's an app that you can download called Trafficking. It only takes a few minutes. You can set the location, what hotel you're at, Best Western in Tampa, and you can take up to 4 pictures of your room when you get inside. It's really helpful to take a couple pictures of the room and then 2 pictures of the bathroom. This is building a facial recognition database for hotel rooms. So when these traffickers are posting these victims for sale in the hotel rooms, they can pop that picture into that database and locate where they are. Just takes a couple of minutes to do. Support a nonprofit that is fighting human trafficking. There are lots of nonprofits coming up and standing up. There's victims that are standing up and fighting back. There are Christians that are forming task force to take victims back from their captors. Support a nonprofit. Please never approach a suspected trafficker. They're extremely dangerous. Remember what I told you in the beginning? It's MOE. It's money over everything. You can get the victim killed and yourself killed. If by any chance you thought that, hey, I want to support Camp True Light in their mission, we are attached to Amazon Smiles. If you shop Amazon Smiles, you can select Camp True Light as a charity that you would like to support. Also, if you're here and you are hearing me and you would like more information on anything, I know that some of you if you're logged into Facebook, you may not be able to see the slides. We would be happy to send you posters, the Human Trafficking National Human Trafficking number, copies of the red flags, information to talk to your youth. You can reach us at contactus@camptruelight.com. Remember, Jesus said, to receive one such child is to receive me. But whosoever shall cause one of these little ones to stumble and sin, it's better for them to have a huge millstone around their neck and drowned in the depths of the sea. We're going to we're going to play a couple of blasts on the shofar. The first one represents the crying out of the victims, and the second is a call to attention. This is a wake-up call.
Thank you, Penny, for the presentation, for the information. Again, if anyone needs any of the information she mentioned or any information you can think of, please contact camptruelight.com and they'll be glad to send you any information that you need. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, our gracious God, we appeal for those that are enslaved. We pray for those that have been captured. We pray, Lord, that people would be aware of their surroundings, not only to protect their own children, but to see the situation to where traffickers have stolen lives and are anointing them. Father, that they might be exposed and captured and the captives set free. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.